Hello, you're watching Inspired Humboldt, where we shed light on local cultural creatives who are uplifting and changing the community through creativity, consciousness raising, and holistic healing.
This is Patrick Walsh, and I'm Casey McLean, and we are part of A Rising Community, a local nonprofit, and one of the many Dreammaker projects of the Ink People. We'd like to thank the Ink People today for the use of this space and all the many ways they support us and the Mars Project for videoing, editing, and all things technical.
Today our guest is Monica Topping. Welcome to the show, Monica.
Well, thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you came to be in Humboldt?
All right. I moved to Humboldt County in 1995 with my family. I was born in Santa Cruz. We spent 11 years in Nevada. We moved here when I was 15, and I basically just chose never to leave. I had a lot of friends at the end of high school who were kind of jetting. They wanted to get out of here. And when I asked my mom, like, why are they leaving? And I don't want to leave. And she said, well, probably they were born here and they're looking for something different. I knew what it was like elsewhere and chose to stay here. So that's where I've been since.
Yeah. Every time I leave and come back, I always get this new gratitude for this bubble that
It's a
beautiful
special spot.
bubble.
Yeah.
It is.
Patrick and I know you from the Ink People, because we're one of the Dreammaker projects, the Ink People, and you have helped and supported us so much in our process. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to work at the Ink People, what you do here, how your experience is?
Yeah, absolutely. I am the administrative director here at the Ink People Center for the Arts. So basically the back office supporting all the things, including all the dream makers and all of our other projects and art and culture throughout Humboldt County, which is what the Ink People supports around here. I actually first got involved with the Ink People a number of years ago when I took over coordination of North Coast Open Studios, which is another one of our dream makers. North Coast Open Studios has been going since the late 90s, and about 10 years in, maybe a little less, they became a dream maker. And then I took over the event I think it was after the 2013 event year. Took over coordination of it. So basically we've got more than 100 local artists that literally open their studios to the public when we're not in a pandemic. And it's really one of my favorite local events. And so I spent a lot of years on the other side of the desk, bringing in the donations and working with the staff to get registration going and all that other stuff, with enjoying the staff doing the bookkeeping for me. I always said that the administrative fee that dream makers pay was well worth it because I didn't have to do my own QuickBooks. And now that's my job, but still well worth it. But yeah, I love being on my side of the desk because I get to be kind of a cheerleader for all of our dream makers and encourage y'all to do the work that you do in the community, which kind of fills my cup every time I get to have conversations, with people who are doing really good community work.
Actually, this wasn't a question I was going to ask, but because you mentioned open studios, do you want to mention some of the Dreammaker projects that you've been involved in, that have been, people might know around town or might want to look for?
Yeah, I always kind of joke that when you look out the window here at our office, you probably see 3 dream makers, no matter where you are, and you may or may not know that they're dream makers. But for years, actually, I was more involved with North Star Quest Camp, which is a camp for middle school aged girls. That's one of our dream makers. Eureka Street Art Project is one of our dream makers, and that's coming up in the Street Art Festival is coming up in August. Black Humboldt is one of our dream makers that is just doing amazing work. HC Black Music and Arts Association, English Express. There's so many amazing projects. I don't want to like leave anybody out. There's just so many that have kind of powered through the pandemic, whereas I've had to put my event on hold for the pandemic. There have been so many of our dream makers that have just, barreled through and made it work. And I really appreciate them and admire what they've been able to do.
And I'm just curious, actually, just for myself, because when I first got to town, it seemed like it was really more geared to artists. But then over the years, I've seen like Pride and Black Humboldt. And so can you talk about maybe a little bit how that change happened from, more into social consciousness?
I wasn't here when that happened, but we say that we are an art and culture nonprofit. So we always want to make sure to remind people that the Ink People is more than just art, which art just encapsulates so much. But, culture is such a big part of what we do. We live on Wiyot land. It's really important for us to acknowledge that. We have, people of color that are sharing this space, that exist in this space. And we want to make sure that we're supporting everything that everybody is doing to kind of create a more comfortable life for everyone, acknowledging that not everything is perfect, and figuring out how we can support the fixing of those things. So I assume that, at the point when the and culture got added to the art of what the Ink People did, that was the reasoning for it.
Yeah, I actually have been loving the term cultural creatives because I feel like art is creative and that affects society. And so it kind of incorporates both terms.
Yeah,
both
absolutely.
Ideas. Yeah.
And it's really important for us to recognize that, that the humans who are making the art are so influenced by their own upbringings and the communities that they live in. It's not just making a pretty thing to hang on a wall. There's so much of that person who made it and the people before them that created that person that goes into that work.
Yeah, amazing.
Totally, yeah. You're also an artist who won a competition called the Trash Fashion Show.
I did. The Kinetic Couture, Fashion with a Repurpose is the full name of that event. It is a kinetic fundraiser. And we've done that for years at the Morris Graves Museum of Art. And it's a trash fashion show. That's exactly what it is. It is fashion made out of stuff that would otherwise be landing in the landfill. And for years I've participated in it. A few years prior to winning, I had finally started making my own outfits. Prior to that, I was modeling other people's outfits and making the accessories for them, because that's kind of what my focus is on a day-to-day in my creative life. But in 2019, I made a dress out of Crown Royal bags. And all of the accessories, all the jewelry that went with it was made from the cords from the Crown Royal bags. And I made the beads out of Crown Royal bottles, and just basically used as much of that as I could. I would like to add that I did not empty all of those bottles. I rely on community participation to selflessly donate their empties to me so I can make art. But yeah, it was years in the making, but I finally won Kinetic Couture. And my dress had pockets, which is also very important. Wow. Yeah, that was the award winner right there, is that it had pockets. But yeah, I mentioned that I made the beads out of the Crown Royal bottles, and that is a thing that's really my life outside of my day job. Is Rock Chick Designs, which is art that I make typically out of recycled liquor, soda bottles. Now Broken Fire and Light is one of my materials that I do. So I do what's called lamp work. It's a bench-mounted torch that I melt glass in and melt it onto a mandrel, which makes the hole in it, and I make beads. Which actually all of these bracelets and the earrings that I'm making, or that I'm wearing today, are all things that I have made. And I actually won a sizable grant from Humboldt Area Foundation, the Victor Thomas Jacoby Award, back in 2016, with the idea that I had, because what I really wanted in making my jewelry was to use as much recycled and repurposed material as I possibly could. And what I wanted was to find recycled glass beads. And I wanted to be able to define what those beads were made from. And that was much harder to find than I expected. I wanted to be able to say, like, these, this green bead that's somewhere over here is made from a Tanqueray bottle, or, this clear bead is made from an Alchemy Distillery, like, Bolt whiskey bottle. And that was not a thing that I was able to find anywhere. And so I had this thought that I wanted to make them myself, possibly. I started actually with commissioning an artist down in the Bay Area to make beads for me, and then realized that if I could figure out how to afford the studio, I could learn to do it myself. And so I applied for the Jacoby Award and got it, and that was amazing. And I ended up purchasing all of my equipment from the husband of a woman who was a lampwork artist who had passed away. And it just kind of all came together. The stars aligned. I was able to get a lampwork studio for much less than what it would have been all buying it brand new. And some really good friends of mine offered me their garage to set up in. So my studio is here in Eureka, and I'm there most Saturdays melting glass and making beads and experimenting with mixing things together in color combinations and stuff. And it's very fun. It is very therapeutic. It's definitely my therapy. So currently I've got, in addition to just the jewelry that I make, earrings mostly and bracelets and things like that, I've got a couple of projects in process right now. One is for an upcoming North Coast Environmental Center kind of trash art show that they've got happening. So we went to the beach one day after my studio time and collected a bunch of glass from the beach, and I made some beads and some other stuff I'm going to turn into a piece for that show. And then Humboldt Arts Council put out a call for artists for a show they're doing called Re-Emergence, that's going to be showing from August through October at the Morris Graves. And they were offering grants for that, and I ended up being one of the artists who's getting one of those grants. So I'm going to create a piece for that show as well. So I'm still building that in my head.
I feel like I should say thank you for cleaning up the beach, too, as well as making amazing things. So it's called Rock Chick Designs. Mm-hmm. And can people purchase your...
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to make things to order. That's kind of my main thing, because I don't do a lot of tabling. I've got some earrings actually down at Humboldt Mercantile down in Old Town. They've got one of my specific designs of earrings that have fire and light beads on them, because people who are into fire and light are super into fire and light. And I am okay with that because they're such pretty colors. And when fire and light breaks, people are just heartbroken. So when they trust me to take that broken piece and turn it into something pretty, that is just, it's a huge honor that, they're handing it over to me and allowing me to make further art, especially since Fire and Light locally started out with recycled glass. Mm. So by the time it gets to me, I'm basically re-recycling it, which is pretty neat. But yeah, I do a lot of made to order, pieces. I've got some kind of existing earring designs primarily, and I'm very active on Instagram and on Facebook as Rock Chick Designs, and I try to post regularly, so, I can put any color of bead or bottle or whatever that people really like on any design.
That's kind of cool, because even if you had something that was special, like a bottle, or it could get made into a piece of jewelry.
Yes, absolutely. I somewhat recently, a friend of mine was heartbroken because she had this candy dish that was her grandmother's, and her cats knocked it off the counter where it was and broke it. And she ended up messaging me a picture and being like, can you make beads out of this? Brilliant. And it was like, well, I can try. And I did. And so now, like, she and some of her relatives are all wearing earrings made from the beads made from, grandma's candy dish, which is really special. So if somebody, gets married and has like a special champagne bottle, or, a bottle that's from a road trip, or, some kind of special memory, I would love to make beads, and turn them into something wearable for somebody that, out of a bottle that means something to them. And I keep everything very separate. I keep everything labeled and make sure not to mix, bottles and colors together. There's a lot of bottles that are kind of the same color through a number of different brands, but I keep them all separate because I recognize that, for example, people who like Coraleo tequila don't want Sky vodka beads and vice versa. There's a lot of greens that are all the same, but it's, kind of the same thing. So I keep everything separate so that someone that wants what they want will get what they want.
So cool.
Smart.
Yeah, even if you were on a road trip and found like some glass on the beach, you wanted to remember your trip.
I know, you're kind of making me want to find glass to bring to you now.
Like whatever's special to you, I love being entrusted with continuing the life of that glass.
So we kind of covered it a little bit, but because through the fundraiser, but I just wanted to ask you about the Kinetic Sculpture in terms of that you were the Rutabaga Queen.
Yes, I am the 2004 Rutabaga Queen for the Kinetic Sculpture race. Getting to be kind of the sort of head cheerleader for the race. And once a queen, always a queen. So I will never be a former queen. I will always be a queen, just not the reigning one. Incidentally, my partner is the current reigning queen. We are the first two queen household, and my child is the royal pain. That is his official kinetic title. But yeah, our lives kind of revolve around kinetics, amongst other things, and kinetics is very much part of our local art and culture scene around here. So, we're all about the art and the engineering and, STEAM, like the mixing of all those concepts together to make something that's fun to look at and functional.
And just because you said the word queen a bunch of times just then, and your partner made this queen right here, do you want to say a little bit about his art? Or
so Robot is an artist who he's freaking brilliant is what he is, but he doesn't really have like one medium. He just kind of jumps in and does whatever is in his head, but painting is definitely one of those things. So he did this Queen of Hearts for an art show, and I'm glad that I got to keep it. Usually it's art that's in my office here at the Ink People. But yeah, he and I kind of collaborate on some projects, and he also is a recycler. So he does a lot of work with like melted plastic that otherwise would be going into recycling bins, and melts things down. And we have collaborated and made earrings out of my beads and his melted plastic things that are molded. And he's also very involved in the local kind of public art scene. And he's going to be doing a one of the murals actually on the Kinetic Museum during the Eureka Street Art Festival in August, which is really exciting.
I think this will be, the third or fourth year of the Street Art Festival?
This will be the fourth year.
It's been so amazing. We have gotten so much amazing art in this town through that festival.
We really have.
Like
and this year, it's all wayfinding this year, which is really fun. So it's the stuff that you see as you're coming into town that's kind of sending you in the directions of Old Town and things that are, happening around here. Also, worth mentioning, since we're talking Street Art Festival, Happy, which is Humboldt Asians and Pacific Islanders in Solidarity, are doing the Eureka Chinatown project, and Happy recently became a dream maker of the Ink People. So there will be a Chinatown mural going up during the Street Art Festival in the alley behind Coast Central. That area was known as Chinatown in Eureka before folks were run out of town, which is, part of the important local history that doesn't get talked about a lot, but really should, because we should know what happened around here.
Seriously, gave me
no idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot that's really connected to that, but I'm really excited that that this project is coming together to we know about some of the local native history that's, less than savory, but, definitely the local Chinese community being run out of town is another huge part of Eureka history that we need to talk about so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And we know the Yurok tribe got to reclaim some space a few years ago, and it's cool that they'll get to reclaim some part of town this year. That's
Absolutely. We need to be able to recognize what has existed around here. So I was very excited when that came on as one of our dream makers. So we get to support that good work.
We're getting so much cooler.
Are there any other projects you want to talk about? I know you kind of covered a lot already, but
I know we might want to cut that if there's any. You don't feel.
Yeah.
I think I pretty much already mentioned the
I
stuff
feel
that I'm
that,
going to be working on. So
Let's go to your success question. Can you cut that little part, Jay? Okay. You haven't come up with 500 more things?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, if you could do anything and you knew you would succeed, what would you want to accomplish?
Oh, that is a really good question. Gosh, I think it's pretty safe to say that what I'm getting to do and getting to work with my partner and doing in turning trash into pretty and useful things, if we could just be able to have the time in the day to focus on more of that, it would be that. I've honestly, Rock Chick Designs has been focused on repurposing for so many years. I mean, in a lot of different ways. It's grown. The medium has changed a lot of times over the years. And so, I find new inspiration in things and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that and just kind of explore things. And having the ability to have more time to work on that would be incredible because there's just not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And
sounds cool.
one of our last questions is just that like what inspires you, and it sounds like you're really inspired to recycle and also to make the world a better place through ink people. And is there some things that keep you lit up in that way?
Yeah, I think it's really important to acknowledge my parents' part in that part of me. My mom has been recycling since way before it was cool. My dad is a builder. He makes, as he says, he makes big stuff out of small stuff. So I was raised around that. And, anytime that I have a new project or I've got an idea that I'm trying to get out of my way, out of my head, my parents are the people that I go to that, I'm like, I want to accomplish this thing, but I'm not sure where to start. And I know it's shocking, but showing up at a hardware store and trying to figure out what tool to use that's something that is not what those tools are made for doesn't always turn out terribly well. So I have that support system with my parents and also with my partner now that help me to get the things out of my head. And creating a world or, putting out into the world that you can take ugly things. You can pick up something from the gutter, from the trash you pick up on the beach and turn it into something really cool is something I would love to instill in my kid and in his friends, when I get to talk to his class about things that I do. It's really neat because getting people to see the world in a different way and see trash in a different way and like, oh, how could this be turned into something cool? It doesn't just have to go in a garbage can and never be thought about again. So those are things that I like to aim for.
It's like conscious eco alchemy.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Can I put that on my business card?
Cool. Oh, that's super cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show, and we really appreciate the work you do and all the people you support and inspire.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. And, I just remembered a thing that I probably should have mentioned before. By absolute total surprise, I got to be the City of Eureka's 2020 Artist of the Year.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So that was a thing. How do I forget to mention that? Which the thing that's a huge surprise about that is that honestly, so much of my life, my day job and what I do with Open Studios is supporting other artists. So much of the work that we do with Dream Makers, for example, is helping you to help yourselves, right? We want to support you to get better at the things so you can do even better work in the community. And so to have the mayor acknowledge my work and what she jokingly but totally accurately referred to as the art supply of 2020, which was empty liquor bottles, was really incredible and a total honor. So
Yeah, sometimes behind the scenes, like it reminds me of the Mars Project that is so creative in itself, and we don't often get to see sometimes what's happening and all the creativity that's behind the scenes to make it happen for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much fun to be one of the behind the scenes people and know that some of that stuff that's going on out in the community is like, oh, that's a thing that happened like in a brainstorming session. Excellent. I'm so glad that that's happening.
Yeah, and I know you've been a part of so many people's brainstorms and added your creativity to so much stuff. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll put the links below, and thank you so much for being with us today. Bye-bye.